the head coach of Rush Fight Academy. He's a promoter of one of the most notorious, best-run amateur shows, Rumble and Rush. Was a fighter back in the day as well. One of the most iconic pictures of Paul is your fight with Keith Cody. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Mr. Paul Cowzer.
Welcome in, man.
Thanks for having me on, lads.
Delighted to have you on, Paul. We're obviously, when I contacted you about it, it was just to come on and speak to us about the recent changes for Irish MMA over here with the new standards. So a couple of things you hadn't met, and a couple of changes have come. So do you just want to, from the perspective, it was the standards of medical care at, am I allowed shorten and call it IAPA, or do we?
IAJ. Just call it the association.
The association sanctioned events. Then you had age limitations for different types of MMA competition, and then basically the stance on regards to hybrid shows. So just in regards to them, on the first one there, Paul, the standards of medical care at shows, what's changed, as in what has changed, what's the new?
Well, it's been going on for years really. We've been trying to up our standards, and can you hear me there?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, we've been trying to up the standards, so this has been a major breakthrough. So on your normal shows, your commercial shows, basically you're going to have two referees or two doctors at any event. So it just means things are going to be safe, and there'll be a paramedic crew along with that. So on the pro events, if there's more than 12 fights, there'll be another doctor for every 6. So potentially you could have 3 to 4 doctors at an event.
So it's basically added, the more fights you have, the more doctor care is required. Yeah,
the more fighters on, obviously there's chances that the doctors could be off looking after other fighters, so you need to have the cage with a doctor ready to go, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's proper ambulance crew, so it's not just a few medics sitting there, like it's paramedics that are ready. And there'll be medical rooms, so say there was risk of brain injury, they can go straight in there and be seen. You know, instead of just outside the cage looking at them, lighting their eyes, that's it. Like, they can bring them back, proper evaluate them, and then obviously they have the skills to know whether to send them on in the hospital to the ambulance. And
before this was like brought in, or it's been brought in now, was there any kind of standards that they had before that, or is this, or was it kind of, this show does this show does this?
Every show had their own sort of standards, so like I said, we have been improving things out. Like every show, like say from the very first shows, the standards would have been a lot lower, and it's increasing at a rapid rate. So I think the standard would have been that you would have had a doctor pretty much up until recently, but now the 2 doctors is just making it a bit more safe, because obviously in that case, if one doctor was off looking after someone, you either have to stop the show there, or you have someone there that's ready to take over.
And so as well,
I think it's a more.
I was reading in the article as well, Paul, it says things along the line like it's a standard UFC cutmen and stuff like that. So obviously I can remember, like, from doing shows before where cutmen start coming more so on the scene, and now they're revving at every show. So the likes of your Joe Clifford, you'd have then Tommy and Niall, you know what I mean? So there is a high level of cutmen in the country. So is this something that will be a force as well on the amateur shows, to have cutmen as well as medics and doctors?
Yeah, that'd be part of it. Now, in fairness, every show has been doing that now for the last year or two, so it's kind of accepted policy at the moment, so we didn't really have to worry about that. But they'd be part of the medical setup, and they're doing a very good job, and it's essential as well for, obviously on the show, but it's essential for the lads' care, because you get them cuts and don't get looked after, they can be a problem forever on you, you know.
And then just moving on to the age restrictions, because I know people in the past have given out saying that they don't think young, as in not adults, should be fighting in a show where adults are sitting around drinking, cheering on fighters. So is that the idea of this? Is that, the age?
No.
The age is sort of set that, like, if you're under 17, you have to fight someone who's 17. If you're 17, you have to fight another 17-year-old. And then if you're under the age of that, you have to fight in the sort of league stance, isn't it? Where it's sort of not closed doors, but you know what I mean, like club shows. And
Yeah, it's less about the audience. It's more about legality. So, like, technically, obviously, you're 18, you're an adult. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, Paul, we're just going quiet. We're just listening to you.
Oh, no, but so, like, say technically if you get 15, 16-year-olds and all, they're kids. So the idea would be they won't be doing the amateur rules anyway. So the way we've done it is in amateur boxing, 17-year-olds can box senior. You could technically be a pro boxer at 17, you know. Yeah. So at 17 they're allowed to, but they have to fight at the amateur, the teen-year-olds, and there has to be with another 17-year-old. So you won't see a 17-year-old fighting an 18-year-old because legally that's a kid against an adult, even though they're both the same, but law or not, you know.
And apart from that now, aspect, because it seems to be a big thing, obviously it is, fighter safety should be paramount and should be number one interest in the show. But like, what's going to be from, I'm a promoter for example, what's going to be the difference for me? What do I have to do to get a show up and running? Like I'm Paul Cowzer, run and rumble and rush. What standards do I now have to meet? 100%.
Well, you basically need to make sure all the fighters are medically cleared. They all have their blood tests confirmed, so they're HIV cleared, their hepatitis clear. You know, so they're not going to pass on any bloodborne diseases to anyone else, and that includes they could pass them on to referees or to medics or anything. So, like if you're a cutsman and you're working on a lad, now I know they wear gloves and all that, but at least they can confidently go in knowing that your man is cleared from hepatitis or HIV or anything like that. So, first thing is they're going to have to be medically cleared. I'm the medical officer in that sense that it comes to me and I say yes or no. So if I say yes, then they're allowed on the show. And obviously once both fighters are cleared, that fight is on. Now, then the show itself has to have the proper medical supervisor. So at the moment we're talking two doctors. That'd be for the rumble and rush now. You'd have two doctors and you have your paramedic team. Now, if you're in a pro show and you have another, say you've got 18 fights, say you've 13 fights, you're going into the next 6. You need 3 doctors there.
Yeah, so just looking at the cost, obviously you're talking about with promoters, you know, you wanted to make it as accessible as you can to promoters, but you can't really cut corners with fire safety either. So just looking at the cost that was kind of estimated down on the website, you had £900 for the amateur, 2,000 for the pro. How much does that differ, do you think, for you? Because you obviously run Rumble and Rush, which would be an amateur show. Would that differ a lot compared to when you did run it previously before these standards to now?
No, that wouldn't really. No, it wouldn't really, to be honest with you. Because the ambulance setup would have been 500-600 anyway, and then doctor was possibly up to that again. So not really. If anything, going by them rates, I don't know anything about the rates, to be honest with you. But going by them rates, that would be no difference to me at all. You know, it will affect some of the pro shows.
Sorry, Bobby, I missed that. Say again.
Some of the pro shows now, say you've got 17, 18 fights on, you're going to have to spend that bit extra. But at the end of the day, you put more fights on, technically you're going to have more spectators there to come and support them fighters. So, you know, you're going to have to balance out, they're going to have to balance out their what they take in and what they spend, but either way, fighter safety is paramount, and that's what they need to be focusing on.
It only makes sense, you know, the more fighters you have on a card, the more fights you have, the more risk of an injury. So therefore, the more doctors you need to have the assistants there just in case of an emergency. You know, it only makes sense. Really.
No, it's definitely a smart thing to do, but we're also following the international guidelines. So it's not just us randomly making up our own rules. We're like the International Mixed Martial Arts Association. We're following, so we're following international rules.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's all established of. You know, this is pretty much what is the accepted standard.
Yeah, so we're working at the highest possible standards in international MMA.
Yeah.
So we have to be seen to be really doing things right. And if we're following the highest standards, then we are doing things right.
Yeah. Well, it's only going to legitimise.
Exactly, and I'm sure the ultimate goal for yourselves would be to get MMA recognised as a sport in Ireland, because it's not recognised by the ISP, is it the ISC?
Well,
at the moment,
the Sports Council, the Irish Sports Council. Yeah, that would be one of the long-term goals, and I think there is roads into that now at the moment. They're already in talks with certain people. With the International Mixed Martial Arts Association, getting all linked in with that. Once you're in a body like that, then things start to become official. Because if you're not doing things by the book and doing things officially, the Irish Sports Council won't even look at you anyway.
Yeah. And would there be?
So,
go ahead.
You go.
Yeah. Would there be? It's hard to say time frames because nobody knows. These things can take a lot longer than expected, or they can go, quicker. Is there any time frame of when you think maybe you'd be able to approach this, the Sports Council and try get MMA recognised? Like
there would be talking all the time. That wouldn't be like so. But that could be literally just, look, here we are. We're trying to meet these standards. We're running an event. Do you want to see the standards we're doing and how professional it is? But really, I think at the moment we're more trying to get established with the International Mixed Martial Arts Association, IMMAF. So once we're established in there, then that's when we probably really start pushing to get nationally recognised. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a big thing, but we will do our best to get in there.
In fairness as well, Paul, like you look at all the names I called out there, all the officers, yourself, John, Andy, do you know what I mean? The other lads, you know what I mean? You are almost doing this off your back, if you know what I mean. As in, you aren't getting government funded. It's not like other sports in this country that gets money thrown at it. This is a grassroots sport over here, and I was listening to, I don't know if you listen to podcasts apart from us, Paul, but I was listening to Big John McCarthy, who was on, and he was talking about when he was refereeing the early UFCs, he was sort of learning as he was going. So that's what this sport, in a sense, was doing. It was building up, because I know, I started at the top there, that picture of you and Cody. When was that fight there? That was a good few years back.
That was 2010, I think.
Yeah. And so it's the sport is so young in this country that people forget that, and it's lads like yourselves who are this standard of fighter safety for all the people that turn around, and there's still, as much as Conor McGregor has blown MMA up in this country, people still consider the sport a lesser sport, and it's more associated, so it's going to make it more legitimate, and you're doing great things for the sport by taking the fighter safety into consideration. So you just have to be commended for that, the job you're doing in that sense. So,
thank you.
But then it's sort of, I'm going to lead it down a bit of a weird path here, because last week we spoke about it. Then you had a doctor speaking out about safety on a show ran in Dublin here last week. And this is the stance as well. The reason why we're obviously going to bring it up to yourself is the stance is in the publication that was put out with the great additions to safety here, that it's non-supportive of hybrid shows. So it's basically shows that aren't MMA shows, like a caged Muay Thai or that style show. So it's just, with that article, do you feel that coming out sort of, just in regards to, what was your take on that, as in from the association's stance, if you know what I mean?
Now, our stance has nothing got to do with the doctor's stance. They're totally separate issues. We don't have a problem with hybrid shows. Paul Lawrence is hopefully fighting now in the right venue on Saturday week in a hybrid show.
Yeah. And
that's fine. The problem we have is when Thai boxing is going on and people are thinking it's MMA, and there's big pictures in the paper, and you've got Thai boxers all bust up, and we're getting the bad rap for it. So, it's simple. Throw on your Thai boxing or boxing gloves and do your Thai boxing, and we all support Thai boxing. We like Thai boxing. There's I've had lads in the show, and the show was fine. No problem at all. just personally, and from the association point of view, we'd like to see them wearing boxing gloves, and when they fight people, knowing it's Thai boxing and not looking at it thinking this is MMA, because we're basically getting the negative press off their game. Now, look, Thai boxing's rough enough without making it more rough by putting smaller gloves on. In an MMA match, you can shoot down, you can take it to the ground, and you can avoid all that if you want. You can't do that in Thai boxing. So, from my point of view and from the association's point of view, we just like to see them throw on boxing gloves.
So the problem is almost what you're saying, the confusion, because just to bring up, I can't remember the name of the TV show, I can just remember the gentleman, I'll be polite about it, that was doing the interviewing, and John Kavanagh was on the show, and it was almost like John Kavanagh was in the dock defending MMA on this show. The guy, he presents all the rugby shows. What's his? I can't think of his name.
I don't know.
George Hook.
No, it's not. It wasn't Hook. I can't think of his name. He's a grey-haired fella. He's the host on RTE for all the rugby. Yeah. But he had put up pictures saying, "Look what happens in the cage in MMA. Is this sport not lethal?" And the pictures he put up were like Diego Sanchez, who you only have to look at and he bleeds. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then there was a couple of the Thai fights. Keith Levin's picture of him on the top of the cage was put up. So is that what it is more so than safety?
That's exactly what it is. Well, look, that's exactly what it is. But you've got to remember, obviously it is less safe as well, because, you know, you're wearing gloves that are going to do more damage. But no, really our issue is that we're being associated with Thai boxing. Yeah. Now, we've like I've ran MMA events with Thai boxing fights on, with K1 fights on, and like being on shows with both. We don't have a problem with that. We just want people to be a differentiation, you know. So people should be able to differentiate between which is which, you know.
So in a sense, though, is that like in the I don't know what way I'm going to word this, because I was just thinking to me, is that not the media's fault for false media journalism work more so than the Thai? Because John Wayne Parr runs a very successful.
It is the media's fault, but look, the media are they're going to be against all combat sports from a starting point, and they're especially going to be against mixed martial arts because it's portrayed as cage fighting and this and that. Look, mixed martial arts is one of the most safe and controlled combat sports going. You know what I mean? But it's not portrayed that way. So we're trying to look good, and we're trying to look professional and safe. And then you've got pictures of lads all bust up because they've done a Thai boxing match, and we're getting the rap for it. That sucks for us. So let's be honest about it. You know.
Would you have like less of a problem with it if, you know, the promotion was changed rather than the sport itself? So you do see a lot of promotion for certain events like this, and it says Muay Thai with MMA gloves, and they do use slightly bigger gloves. But if it's just Muay Thai and cage,
I wear pro MMA gloves.
I believe they're a 7-ounce glove, Paul. As far as I'm aware. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's I don't think they are. I'm trying to look in. I can't. Well, them.
Yeah. Either way,
the thing is, right, 7-ounce glove sparring them is pretty much a boxing glove.
Yeah.
So what's the logic in wearing that apart from you want to look like an MMA fighter?
Yeah, it's obviously that's the way the event is promoted. It's hard to say why. Like, you know, I went to the show and it was a great show, and you know, whatever. But just in general, like if it wasn't promoted as, you know, Muay Thai with MMA gloves, just Muay Thai in a cage, I'm guessing you wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Like,
oh no, look, throw boxing gloves on, and the cage doesn't really matter. That's a safety. To me, that's a safety element in MMA.
Yeah,
that's all it is. You know. Now, look, throw on a pair of boxing gloves. And then when your pictures go up, it's clear it's a Thai boxing match. You know, then when they put the pictures up of the MMA fight in the show, it's clear it's an MMA match. And that's really all. It's that simple. The show, look, I have no problem with that show. I thought it's run very well. Personally, I thought the doctor was out of order. You know, it sounded like they were jumping through hoops trying to do things right. You know, and his issue wasn't what our issue is. You have to remember that. So his issue...
I don't know. I was saying if any confusion there at the start, Paul, I was saying that as in because of that article last week, like that was on the radio and everything. This doctor, do you know what I mean? So It just so happened that when you brought that out, so I wasn't saying that was your agreement with him.
Yeah, but people might think that. But the thing is, on the radio, they didn't actually come out too bad in it. MMA came out bad in it, and look, it pretty much wasn't an MMA show. But MMA was the one that's coming out looking bad. The brand of the promotion, most people won't even remember the name of that promotion without being smart. But they will remember cage fighting. And they will remember, like some donkey on radio saying, "Oh, this sport is terrible, blah, blah, blah." But they're not actually talking about the right sport.
Yeah, I think as well, like, apart from you're on either side, doesn't matter if you're on either side, but I think the development of what you are doing with the association's obviously going to help that, because you're going to get, the facts about MMA out there, and not to confuse it with certain things. Like, again, whatever side you're on, that doesn't matter. At least the stuff like this coming up where MMA will be put out there in an official way. So I think that's good as well.
Well, it is. Like, because I'd chime in on it there with, like, regards to idiots on radio stations. Like, I want FM 104 to literally send every MMA fan an apology, because the first UFC with McGregor and Brandao that was mainstream over here, not the first UFC 93, the McGregor Brandao. I remember FM 104, the phone-in show with whatever, I can't remember who, Chris Barry. Yeah, he was going on, and they were going on about it's barbaric, and there was all the scumbags were outside the point fighting, and they blasted toys saying it's barbaric. There people ringing in saying, "Oh, sure, I wasn't at it, but I was told this happened," and it's all hearsay, and it's almost like made up stories.
Sometimes I think FM 104 is fucking.
But now FM 104 are throwing their hat on it. They love it because of Conor McGregor. Do you know what I mean? They're going, "Oh, FM 104 are promoting." So there's always going to be idiots, no matter if you're into football, hurling, bleeding, ice skating. There's always someone who's going to give out about the sport. Do you know what I mean? So I think our skin has to be a little bit tough in that sense.
Yeah, well, we have to remember I'm talking about from the association's point of view. We're really trying to put our sport out as a really positive sport, something you should get your kids into. So you don't think about it, you're thinking from a fan's point of view. From our point of view, anything that makes it look bad, we're obviously not happy with. So if you've got pictures of some lad all bloody up and he's not even doing the sport, that's not cool, like, Do you get what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And like I can certainly talk from the straight direct. My young lad started out with Steph and Legends 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? So I think any responsible dad's not going to put their child into something that they don't. And like I think mixed martial arts, be it if you're doing karate or whatever you're doing, taekwondo, whatever, any martial art is great for a kid. Brilliant for confidence. Respect, discipline, everything. I couldn't encourage you anymore. And the day Liam said to me he wanted to go, I was delighted. Like, I felt like I won the lottery. Like, I was interested. So it's certainly. It's great. And again, like Thai, if you told me you wanted to do Thai boxing, I would have brought him down to Warriors. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? I know exactly what you're saying. That you don't. Well, obviously, nobody wants the sport spoken about in a poor manner or ridiculed, but these people that are coming on and doing it, they're doing it from an uneducated perspective. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I found about what this doctor was saying. And this isn't an uneducated man. This man is a fucking neurologist. Do you know what I mean? But he still had that. He
came in from an uneducated. Like, he came in talking like he was talking about a big MMA show.
Yeah.
And from his point of view, it's in a cage, so it's cage fighting. Like, that's just. MMA, mixed martial arts, is just as combat sport, and if it's done on a mat, a ring, a cage, it's the same sport. And as you lads know, the cage is the safest of all them things, because you can't fall out of it. You fall off a mat, you can fall out through a ring, you can't fall out of a cage. So it's a safety aspect, and this is what people need to understand. It's not even a cage technically, because cage has to have a top on it. Do you know what I mean? So, but anyway, but it sounds nice. It sounds nice. It sounds nice for the media to say, "Oh, they're in a cage and the door locks and it can't open."
But the media coverage we're getting here now, Paul, in Ireland, is like the media coverage UFC was getting in its early days.
Yeah, like 1996.
So we're that far behind America with MMA. And if you look at it, New York only bowed to it last week to allow MMA into New York. Now that was more politics than that. But it's almost our our sport, in a sense, here is at that stage in Ireland that America was at in like 96, 97.
Yeah.
Oh, who said
totally.
it? Was
Well,
you cockfight?
they would have.
So many people said it at that time, you know. Like just to, is it like Cage Kings 3, Paul? A lot of the big gyms had fighters on Cage Kings 3, and you know, since all this heat has come from like the press and the misconception about the sport, is that why mixed martial arts has kind of distanced itself from it, like with these new rules for the hybrid shows?
It's purely the aesthetic thing and us getting the blame for their sport. That's all it is. Like, I mean, if they literally put boxing gloves on them in the next event, I'll give them lads. We had Paul Lawrence and Tommy Hogan on the first show, and we enjoyed it. You know what I mean? There was no problem medically doing everything by the book. I have no problem with them in that sense. It's just when the bad press came out and we were getting slayed for it, you know, that's just really, it's fighting against what we're trying to achieve. So we're trying to achieve our sport to look good and they are positive, and then it's kind of fighting against us. So obviously we're not going to encourage that. So I'd personally I'd have you asking that they go wear boxing gloves. And if they want to use a cage, walk away. It's not a big deal, but look, gloves shows the difference straight away. And it's safer for their fighters anyway. So surely that's a positive thing anyway.
Because I sort of brought it up there a minute ago, but obviously we're saying, you know, just Cage Kings because it's obviously the big show in Ireland that's doing it. But John Wayne Parr now in Australia, he has a hugely successful show, Cage Muay Thai, and he's bringing that over to the UK as well later this year. So he's the same now. I'm not too sure. I don't think there's MMA bouts on Cage Thai. I'm not 100% sure. But like it's from my perspective, Paul, as a fan, it's almost disappointing because obviously I'm a huge MMA fan. Hence, we have a podcast about MMA. So I love MMA. I love everything about MMA. And I only got into Muay Thai, must be 4 years ago maybe. I started watching a lot more Muay Thai and I love it. And it just, from my perspective, for me, it sort of saddens me a little bit that it can't be gelled because of that, what you're saying there. And, you know, we have to see it. This is what we spoke about last week. You have to see it from the both sides. But it's just a pity from a fan's perspective that it's bad journalism that's causing this. And it's almost like saying, I went to see a football match today and they kept scoring goals over the bar. I didn't know what was happening. Well, you weren't watching football, mate. You were watching Gaelic. Do you know what I mean? So
but like, look, at the end of the day, if you're doing Thai boxing, just do Thai boxing. Do you know what I mean? Like you wear Thai gloves or boxing gloves in Thai boxing. So, you know, I'd love to know a reason for wearing them. A logical, intelligent reason for wearing them. The only reason I can get it is that it looks like cage fighting or mixed martial arts, which obviously is, you know, and surely Thai boxing Thai boxing's a great sport. It's a tough sport. I think it's tougher than MMA. Surely they're able to sell their own sport based on just, look, we're going to have really tough match here. 2 skillful athletes, you know what I mean? And look, with boxing gloves on, it's tough enough. You don't need MMA gloves to make any more cuts and all. I think the first show we were at, really every fighter was bust up, getting out. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah, well, I know I do. Like, you won't mind me saying it, but Donkey was fighting, and Donkey's like Diego Sanchez. You only have to. Donkey nearly cuts himself walking down to the ring, like, you know what I mean. No, it is. But like, as John Kavanagh said on that show, we found your man's name. What was his name?
Tom McGurk.
Tom McGurk. That's his name. That from that show with John. If you, I've lost my train of thought there. I don't know what I was going to say.
John Kavanagh and Tom McGurk.
John Kavanagh was saying, like, he doesn't deny that MMA is a dangerous sport when it's played at the high risk levels. So I would say the same thing about Cage Thai. It's not, you're not putting debuting lads in there. You're putting seasoned Muay Thai veterans in there. I think they're heightening the sport. And to quote what John Kavanagh actually said about it, he said, it takes the most brutal part of MMA and amplifies that. So that was I'm not too sure where the quote was. I found it on the magic of Google. But like, again, I always think, like any sport, if you know, when played at the highest, you know, if you're doing combat sport at the highest caliber or highest level, it's always going to be dangerous, and that's why the introductions that you have brought in to MMA is going to make it a safer sport as well. So we get your point in that, and you know, it's well made. This is why we wanted you to come on, Paul, was to allow you to voice your side as well, because I just think that doctor didn't do anyone favours with sort of uneducated views.
Look, I personally think he got stuck into them in the wrong, and then he made us look bad in the process. You know, I thought it was terrible. He could have got in and said, look, you should do this, you should do that, and the IAPA are doing this and making great strides and made a positive thing for us. But instead, the way he done it, it actually looked really bad on us. Now, I don't think he meant that, but that's what happened. What I would say, I know I've said it and I've said it a few times, it's not actually the safety element that we have a problem with, because they're in control of their own safety. It's the element where we have the problem with is literally the aesthetic thing where we are getting the blame for their actions.
Like the combat sports in general and MMA have got kind of a bad rap over the years, and I can get where you're coming from, where you know, you're trying to set up a thing where you're trying to get the sport built from the grassroots, and then you're getting bad publicity because of other sports, so we can obviously get that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we can get that perspective completely. So that's perfect. We want to get on to a couple of other things before we let you go.
We want to talk to Coach Paul Cowzer. I can't speak. Coach. Coach Paul Cowzer now. So
Coach, okay.
Rob's going to hit you with some questions here.
Yeah, just we had Gary Morris in. Obviously, he was a product from your gym, and he's fighting Decky Dalton at featherweight. And when he was in here, he was actually talking about you want him to stay at bantamweight. Is there any reason why he took the fight at featherweight? Is there no other fights out there? Or was it something that you jumped all over? Or
he was pestering me. He was pestering me, and you know, he was even saying that he fancied himself against Decky, and you know, Conor didn't actually ask to fight Decky, and I asked for Conor, and they've already fought Conor, and for that reason don't want to do it again. So then the option kind of came up for Gary, so I had a chat with him, and you know, I was kind of saying, look, Gary, I don't know, like, it's the right thing to do, blah blah blah, and we banged heads a little bit, and then he said, no, Paul, I'd like to do it, you know. So we came to the conclusion that, look, there's no harm, you know. He knows what he's getting into. It's not like Gary's around a long time, and he's fought featherweight, so it's not like it's new to him. But I just think his prime weight is bantamweight.
Yeah, and anytime we have anybody from Irish MMA in, we always talk about Conor a little bit. He obviously has a big fight coming up, and there's a similar situation where he's moving up to 170, or he did fight at 170 already. But what do you think about that yourself? Do you think maybe, you know, that weight jump is a little bit too much for him, or? I
don't think the weight did make a difference or will make a difference. Like, Diaz is a lightweight.
Yeah.
Conor is a massive featherweight, so I don't think there's much difference between the two lads. Now, there is obviously physical differences that Conor isn't as used to fighting tall, rangy fighters.
Yeah.
But, you know, Diaz, even at lightweight, strength isn't his thing.
Yeah.
It's not really, it's not, Van, he's a little bit light. You know, he's not a strong lightweight, like, you know, so the whole world, I think, sounds mad, but it's not mad at all. They're not really going to cut much weight. And Conor's going to come in with a different game plan. You know, it's going to be tricky. Diaz is going to come in fitter, like a lot fitter. So I think it's going to be a tricky fight, but look, if Conor fights smart, he can win that fight and get the ball rolling again. I don't know, if you never fight a featherweight again, you'd probably end up going back and fighting lightweight. But that's my own opinion.
And it's always good to get insight. And as well, Paul, next week, I know you've Adam fighting next week. How are you feeling about that? How's Adam looking?
He's sharp, he's moving good. You know, Adam, he's always supremely competent. He had obviously his last fight was against Dylan Tuke. Tuke, like Conor, was someone he was a massive bantamweight. You know, probably shouldn't have even been a bantamweight. Well, he shouldn't, because the next time he couldn't make weight when he was down to fight Neil. So he's moved. Look, he's gone to his proper weight division now, featherweight. And you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if that kid's lightweight soon.
Yeah, he's big.
You know,
Yeah,
so this time he's fighting Blaine, very talented kids, but they're very similar in size, Blaine and Adam. You know, like Blaine can fight at flyweight. Adam, you know, kind of came up from flyweight. Most fights were at flyweight. They both fought twice. Once at both amateur actually. One win each. Now personally, I thought Adam won both fights, but you know that's how judging goes.
Yeah.
So this time, but it was a very close fight. You can't leave fights close. If they're close, it's very hard to complain. Then you know.
Well, that's a whole other topic we were talking about there with Daniel about judging. It's very hard to look at and see where the angles of how judges are scoring it and stuff like that. But then as well, you just said there as well that Paul might be fighting his. We have an exclusive on the show here, do we?
I thought you wouldn't know this. No, Paul was down to fight on. It's in the right venue. It's what's it called?
Oh, I'll be there, my man. I'll be there.
Yeah, no, Paul was down to fight, but there was actually a pull-out. Yeah. So they're in the process of getting a replacement fighter, and it looks like it's nearly done.
Okay.
So, I know Paul is like ready to rock. Like,
I was delighted because Paul's due to fight in Bama, and he was due to fight Reece McKee that night, and he obviously got injured. I was looking forward to watching that fight. Because I literally haven't stopped. Rob will tell you, like, I just Paul Lawrence, like, and so he just when he pulled out of that, we were disappointed from that sense. But it's good to see, because I remember talking to you at BAM and you were telling me about the injury, so it's good to see Paul's back. It was
awful, you know. At the time we were really worried about him, you know, but he's 100% clear, because he basically got a toe in the eye. With we thought that could have been permanent problem, you know. Yeah. But basically his eye ended up just being bruised, but it had really nasty temporary effects. But he's 100% now. I'm hoping that he fights Reece McKee again down the line. He's a talented man again. Yeah. Two lads that are up and comers. You know, obviously I think Paul will win that. They think Reece will win that.
Well, Bam are due back later the year, apparently. I think I might have spoken out of turn last week. But Bam are due back later in the year, so I know Reece is scheduled to fight up in UXC. Is that next month, or I'm not too sure? But so it could be perfect timing.
I don't know if it's not known that they're coming. Is it not meant to be known?
I don't know. I was talking here loosely, and I said,
they're coming back in.
I even said a date, and then I got it right. No, I said a date joking now. But I think
I won't say that. And then when they are due back, I'd asked for Paul to fight Reece, and they were slow getting back to it. And then whatever way it worked, Paul's actually not available at the day now. Nothing got to do with that. He's away.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, because I would have loved to have them fight on the next Palmer.
Yeah.
But we don't mind what the show is. So.
Yeah. Well, it's just great to get Paul on that stage, you know what I mean? As in, when we were sort of talking to fighters with Bama coming up, we sort of spoke to them about, you know, in the point and the big venue and there's an event. Because don't give a shit. I'm in a cage and they're closing the door behind me. It doesn't matter. It all looks the same. Yeah. So, for me, it'd be great to see it at that stage, because like I've called so many of Paul's fights and seen him fight so many times that it'd be great to see him fight at that level. You know, not that level, but you know what I mean, that stage.
Yeah. Well, see, from my perspective, I'm thinking when I want to see that is when Paul is like ready to go to the UFC. Do you know what I mean? And he's there, and right now he's trying to build himself up. He's still learning. He's moving on. So I don't really mind what show he's on. But, you know, there's going to come a time where Bama are going to be begging to have him on, and the UFC are going to be keeping their eye on him. And, you know, you get the right number of wins there. And, look, Paul's a good-looking guy. He's an exciting fighter. You know, he'll knock lads out. He's very, very underrated on the ground. So, you know, Paul's remarkable. I mean, the UFC would love to have Paul on, but obviously you have to get the digits up to do that.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I don't doubt that in the slightest bit. Rob will tell you, I'm a big Paul Lawrence fan. I love watching him fight. So, Paul, listen, we're going to move on. So, listen, thanks a million for joining us. I'm going to see you in the next coming weeks at the shows. So, I'll see you next weekend, and then I'll see you next weekend after that, and then I'll see you up in the north. So, listen, thanks a million for coming on and giving your opinions, obviously, and letting us know what the association and everything. Definitely, more likely we'll have a lot more of your fighters on the show and yourself as well, especially if you bring back Rumble and Rush that all the fans are begging for. But thanks a million, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, lads, and I hope I clarified a few things there.
Happy days.
Cheers, man.
It certainly is great to get both sides of the story, you know. So thanks a million, Paul.
We're not against them lads, just so they know that as well, you know.
I think you made that clear in everything you've said. Now, come here, you're just eating your dinner, so get your dessert into you and put your feet up there and enjoy the rest of it, alright? Have a good night, brother.
Thanks,
Thank you. Take care.
Good night, lads. Good night. Bye-bye.